This is going to be my very last video filmed in this apartment because I am moving. I am moving into a house. We're still renting, but at least it's a house with a yard and an extra bedroom, more space. I'm so excited about it, but this will be the last video I ever film here. So it feels a little bit bittersweet. As you can see, I'm starting to pack up the set a little bit, and I'm not sure what the set's gonna look like in the next place, but I'm excited to build it and see if I'm just going to recreate the same thing, or if you want me to change anything up, let me know, but I hope you're excited too. This video, I originally planned individual reviews for these movies, or I thought, you know, maybe I would make their own video for them, but after I watched Opus, I was like, I just don't feel like it deserves its own video. That would have been a very boring review. So I decided to collect 3 of this year's horror movies, and yes, that is in quotes, on purpose, because these are a little bit more genre-bending horror movies and aren't just strictly horror, but they do all have horror listed as a genre. So it's not just they're a thriller movie that I'm pretending isn't technically a horror movie. They all have some kind of marketing that makes them a somewhat horror movie. And as the pattern is this year, we're doing 3 movies only. I wanted to do one other one, but a couple of the other movies that I could have watched in time for this video, I just feel it in my bones that they're gonna be on streaming soon. So I just kind of want to wait it out and not pay $20 for a movie I'm not sure about. And if you're also wanting to wait until these movies are on streaming, which I don't blame you. Luckily, I'm working with NordVPN on today's video, so it doesn't really matter where you're located, you'll still be able to stream them. NordVPN, of course, protects all of your devices from cyber attacks, things like password hacking, malware, and it has a feature called threat protection that is always running in the background, even if you're not connected to a VPN server, so you're going to be protected no matter where you are. And I think a VPN is just great and an essential tool in using the internet today, because you just never know. It's just not necessarily a safe place out there. Probably my favorite feature though, the one I talk about all the time, is that NordVPN can block your IP address so you can access any other country's streaming service selection with just one click of a button. You click on the map where you want to go, and then boom, suddenly your computer is in that country and you can stream anything from that country. That was a really weird way to put it, but I hope you followed that. Because not every streaming site, as we know, is created equally all over the world. And if you have movies on your watch list that just aren't streaming in your country, NordVPN can help you out with that. So if after a while these movies I'm going to talk about in today's video and you decide you want to watch them, but they're not streaming in your country, make sure to check out NordVPN by going to nordvpn.com/PossessedbyHorror. You can get the exclusive deal plus 4 bonus months for free with a huge discount. Plus there is a 30-day money-back guarantee. So there's really no risk. Try it out for yourself. Now I will have timestamps and chapters listed down below for the 3 movies. If you only care about 1 or 2, feel free to skip around. And disclaimer, I normally don't do videos. God, some people are gonna have a field day with this video. I don't like to do videos on movies that I hate. I really don't. I stopped doing, like, you know, collective lists of movies that I dislike because I try to keep it positive for the most part. But I do know that some of you are going to want to hear my thoughts on these 3 movies. I just so happened to hate all of them. I'm sorry. Okay, this video is a negative video. That was not intentional, but here we are. Hate is a strong word, by the way, but I disliked a lot of these movies and none of them are really rated over a 2.5, okay? So we're gonna go in order of how much I liked them, starting with my favorite to least favorite. I usually do it in the opposite way, but today we're starting with Opus. So this is described as a drama, comedy, horror musical. Okay, I gave this a 2.5. A young writer travels to the remote compound of a legendary pop star who mysteriously disappeared 30 years ago. Surrounded by a cult of sycophants and intoxicated journalists, she soon finds herself in the middle of his twisted plan. I spent most of this movie contemplating, can I even review it? Like until the last maybe 20 minutes, and then I was like, oh, that's why it's described as a horror movie. So this is definitely one of those where the buildup is so long and there is tension there, but it's not horror for most of this movie. And then when it gets to the horror, it is so messed up and so disturbing, but it wasn't enough to save this movie for me. And that's really disappointing because I think I really would have liked this had it been a little bit more balanced out throughout the rest of this movie. But there is something to say about a movie that is pretty boring for most of it, and then it just punches you in the face with horror and weird, uncomfortable things happening, cult behavior, because then it feels realistic, because you've built up this world, but you haven't been immersed in a horror, like a horrific world yet, and then it like hits you with it. So it does have an impact, I will say. Like, it was definitely the most disturbing thing to look at and experience so far this year. It made me the most uncomfortable out of any movie that I've seen in the theater so far. So it is from A24, and I will say it did feel weird for weird's sake sometimes, and it pushed the boundaries when it comes to like uncomfortable things. I don't know. I really don't know how to feel about a lot of this movie. It was very unique, so that's a good thing, right? We love to see an original movie. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of the culty type things we have seen before. Like, you can kind of guess where this is probably leading to. And I am really sad to say that it is boring. It's a boring movie. I'm sorry. I have to just own that as my truth. Every scene, I hate saying this, I really do, because I like John Malkovich. Every scene with John Malkovich, I wanted to just shut my eyes and take a little nap. Because he was just, what was he talking about? It was just droning on and on, which is so believable and realistic for that character. But like, every monologue he had was just like, what is the point here? What are we doing? Now, the horror there is body horror in this. It's very weird and uncomfortable to look at. And it felt like it was for shock factor. So on one hand, you can say that it worked, but it still felt really misplaced in this movie. Like, it felt weird. This whole movie's weird. That's the best way to describe this movie. It is just bizarre, which is fine. I love a weird movie. I love that. But if they just balanced out more horror throughout most of this movie and leaned into the horror elements a little bit more, I actually would have enjoyed this, because I liked the performances. A little bit dull though, I'm not gonna lie, but I think it was more due to the writing and like the script of this, and I don't know. It's competently made, it's beautiful to look at, the setting is interesting, you know, they're kind of in the middle of nowhere in California in like this desert area. It's pretty, it's like a resort out there. But it's like a commune as well. I just felt like the overall story and like what they were going for and the horror elements weren't really executed enough. Like, I wanted so much more. And I went in with zero expectations. I watched just a tiny bit of the trailer and I heard it was somewhat horror, so I was excited to see where it would go. And then I was still let down. Like, I really had no expectations. I did not know what was really in store, and it was just a weird viewing experience. So I'm not sure. It's for a certain group of people. There's an audience for it if you want really bizarre, but it's just not my kind of bizarre. So the other two movies that I'm going to talk about in this video, I have to acknowledge I am not the audience for, okay? I do not love a horror comedy, dark comedy. You know this. They're both light on the horror and very heavy on the comedy. So that is not my favorite when it comes to dark comedies, or, you know, I prefer a horror movie, but with a little bit of comedy in there. If you're gonna do comedy, just have it be like a little sprinkle in there, you know? I don't like a comedy that has horror elements. I prefer it the other way around. So that's just my disclaimer, why I rated these next two movies so low, because I am not the audience for it, but I'm here to review it anyway. Maybe I shouldn't, but you might be interested. So next up we have Hell of a Summer. Just straightforward horror comedy movie. I gave this a 2. Camp counselor Jason Hochberg thinks his biggest problem is feeling out of touch with his teenage coworkers. What he doesn't know is that a mysterious mass killer is lurking on the campgrounds, brutally picking off victims one by one. This is co-directed and co-written by Finn Wolfhard, and he sold this movie when he was 19, so that's very impressive. And obviously he had a role in this as well. He was like a side character, and this does have some redeeming qualities. Do not get me wrong. I love a summer camp. I love a teen horror, so it had those things going for it for me to be like invested and entertained by it. Those don't really get old to me, but I feel like the movie did not do anything new with that at all. It's just the perfect example of a movie that is not for me. Maybe on paper, because like I said, teen horror, camp, you know, they're at a camp. I love that. That should be something that's a little bit up my alley. But I feel like they were going for something really, really campy, literally and figuratively, of course. This kind of reminded me of like Tucker and Dale lightheartedness, like that kind of humor meets Friday the 13th. I've seen people say this is like Scream meets Sleepaway Camp. And that's kind of accurate, but I think the comedy is not as good as what is in Scream, because Scream is a little bit more meta, and I feel like this offers a little bit more cheesy comedy than Scream does. But people say in Friday the 13th, Sleepaway Camp, it's all camps. It's just at a camp, so naturally it's gonna feel like that. It's a slasher movie at a camp. What do you think is gonna happen? I also really didn't like the writing in this one. I found a lot of the dialogue to be really unrealistic and unbelievable. So while this movie isn't necessarily for me, I can obviously see the entertainment value and like why people would have a really good time with it, but I do feel like it's still lacking something, so, you know, lacking a little bit originality. So you might like it and have fun with it, but don't expect like the most original slasher ever. Also, I just want to say the killer reveal is one of the worst I've ever seen. I'm sorry. I much would have preferred if it was more of the obvious choice, because they kind of lean towards something, but not too heavily. I would have preferred that, to be honest, than what ended up happening, because I was just disappointed with the killer reveal. It just, like, the motive and everything behind it just wasn't solid enough for me. So I felt like this movie just tried really hard in every single way. Like, the characters were really unbelievable, more like caricatures, and the script was really weird and dialogue wasn't believable. The kills were pretty lackluster. I felt like they just weren't anything super unique or original to me. Overall, it's just like a very mid movie. It's fine. It's just going to be a little bit forgettable. Lastly, we have my least favorite of the movies, and that is Borderline. And I hate saying that because I was excited for this one. This is described as a dark comedy, and I originally gave it a 2, but after writing my review for it, or like taking notes for it, I was like, you know what? 1.5. I know. It's very dramatic. It's very harsh. But that's just what I feel. A helplessly romantic sociopath escapes from a mental institution and invades the home of a 90s pop superstar. He just wants to be loved. She just wants to survive. First of all, I am a little bit confused by this movie. Listen, I'm not so deep into my mental health advocacy as much as I used to be. I used to be very, I don't want to say stubborn about that, but like there were certain phrases I wouldn't use, and I've kind of lightened that a little bit, right? But I'm just confused. Why are we using like a mental illness? One is like a horror element, which has been done. I'm not saying it's off limits in horror, but hear me out. But also just naming the movie after a mental illness. I'm a little bit lost on that. I was hoping, because I heard the premise, and I was like, I am excited because of the actors in it, but I hope they do something more than just a mental illness, right? Right, guys? It's got to be something else, right? I know people are going to say that I'm sensitive and I'm being sensitive. That's always been a soft spot for me, is mental health advocacy. That's what I have my bachelor's degree in, is psychology. I used to want to work with, used to want to be a counselor and go into being a therapist and things. That was like my original dream in life. Obviously that has taken a turn and now we're here, but that was my passion for a really long time. So yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit sensitive about it. And mental illness is used all the time in horror movies. I am not ignorant to that fact. A lot of times that is the explanation to why people are killing people in a horror movie. But I think there's a way to utilize them in a respectful way, if that's possible, without just naming your movie after one. And I know I could have said that criticism from the beginning, but I wanted to wait to watch the movie to actually like form my opinion over this thing. This is directed by Jimmy Warden, who also directed The Babysitter, also starring Samara Weaving, who is his wife in real life. And he also directed Cocaine Bear, so he is very familiar with the dark comedies and the very much comedy with horror elements type of movie. I'm not gonna lie, his humor is not really for me. His sense of humor and the comedies that he does, not really my movies. So like I said, I was excited to see Samara Weaving in this. I really like her in Ready or Not, and I was also excited to see Ray Nicholson in this because he was so good in Smile 2, and I just feel like he does creepy really well. So I was like, okay, he's playing the psychopath, the sociopath. Let's see what he does. But I just was underwhelmed by both of their performances, really. Ray Nicholson as Paul in this felt it was just so over the top. Such an exaggerated performance of, I guess, borderline personality disorder, of being a sociopath. It was just so over the top that it didn't do it for me. It's supposed to be a dark comedy, but it just left me feeling really sad, and I felt really bad for the character of Paul. Like, the ending just isn't good. It's just, it's tragic. I don't know. But it felt weird and out of place in a comedy movie. I also really hate saying this about any movie, but I was also bored. I was bored watching this movie, especially in like the middle. It was kind of a slog to get through for me. It just ended up being extremely expected, and it didn't do anything new or like something surprising that I was kind of hoping for with a movie named Borderline. I wanted them to like do something with that, or I don't know, make a statement about, I don't know. And even when I was trying to like write my review for this or like take notes for this video, I was just like racking my brain on what to even talk about, because there's just not much to it for me. Like, there's not a lot there. And I feel like I was kind of turned off by the movie concept in the end, and the performances just couldn't save it for me. That was really the only thing I was really excited about. So overall, it is just a pass from me. But if you love it, that's great. But again, a forgettable movie, I think, of this year. I don't know if people are going to be like super jazzed about this movie for years to come. So I am already working on part 2 of this, because there are a lot of movies that are quote unquote horror. And again, I hate saying like that's not a horror movie. I'm just saying when I say horror, I mean genre bending. So they're more than horror. They're not your traditional horror movies, because we're getting so many of those where we have a lot of genres intermixed, mixed in with horror. And it's kind of cool, to be honest, because we're getting a lot of movies that probably would have started off as a thriller, drama, comedy, but we're getting horror elements thrown in, and I'm all for more horror elements in life. So I'm here for it. But those are my thoughts on 3 bad movies that I did not like. I would love to hear if you liked any of these movies, and yeah, leave your opinions down below in a comment. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.